I do. Let me see here. This is 6 hours ago. Do I have time? You know what? I think we got time. So there is a certain individual that I do watch at times that I get his advice from on hand here. Especially to understand the algorithm of certain things. Or understand the ecosphere of certain things. Being Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. You know, understand or so. And I thought, you know what? How about we listen to this and basically just, like, discuss about it. He posted this, actually, about 6 hours ago. And I think it'd be a good opportunity on hand. We got time. We got time, and I think we could discuss it on hand. Now, this is pretty much a Heller here. Harris Heller. And pretty much, I feel like I mispronounced that on hand. But yeah, pretty much, he's been around the block for the longest period of time, and he's seen a lot of different things here and there. Right now, he's actually running his own thing, being called Senpai Gaming. But he has some interesting advice on hand that you can easily take in or understand what's going on. And usually, I do listen to some of his stuff here and there, just because it's always interesting. It's very interesting, and it basically gives you a perspective on what happens here. Basically, being this video saying why gaming YouTubers are having a hard time, and I know why. It's because it's the changing of trends. It's the changing of trends and basically how things are going now. So let's listen into this, and also let me do this. If we're gonna be doing this on here, I'm gonna need to turn this back up so we can listen to this. But yeah, it's interesting.
There are two different kinds of gaming content creators, and I know that's a huge overgeneralization, but it's important. And at the end of this video, I want you to decide which one of the two you are. This video is very difficult to make, but it's about time we talked about this and had an in-depth conversation about why gaming channels just aren't growing. Also, side note, this room is so quiet. My tinnitus is...
Now, bear in mind, I just want to share this on hand. Bear in mind, it's just basically an observation. Remember this, or so it's observation to get you something to think about a little bit, and that way, if you do go into content creation and everything, especially on YouTube, like gaming content creation, which is what I do. It's what I do for the most part. I do have a YouTube channel. I do a lot of content creation outside, like anything on Twitch here. I do take some of it and put it on YouTube, but I edit it up and everything. Be it shorts, long videos, short videos, put it on YouTube just for the fun. One, just so I can improve my editing skills, and two, just so I can entertain you guys in a different way on hand, in case you don't want to look at VODs on Twitch. You have some more options to go to, you know? It's the same thing I do with, like, editing shorts and everything. I put it on TikTok, too, because that way I can entertain you guys on a different platform as well. So, yeah, just take this as observation on hand, something that you can look at, understand, and then apply it, and then take little bits and pieces and apply it to you for what you want to do, you know? Just keep that in mind.
Definitely in here. But gaming creators are struggling on YouTube. Not like the top tier, the top echelon there. Those guys are crushing it. But you should never judge a group based on its extremes. So like while the top 0.01% of gaming content creators are just crushing it, bringing home a serious bag, the average gaming creator isn't even able to pay their bills. Like, remember that massive Twitch revenue leak that showed like every Twitch streamer's income?
Yep, I remember this. I remember when that happened. And it's interesting because the thing you got to keep in mind too, yes, when it comes to streaming or so, yeah, it involves, you know, content creation and everything. But on the flip coin side of it, it's business too. You need to have some business experience a little bit just so you can turn what you're doing into a affordable thing. So that way you can balance it out and everything else on it, which is hard. It is, I will be honest, it's hard because it requires a lot of choice making on how to approach it, who to go to, especially for sponsorships. Especially for if you're streaming for like sponsorships, it be it YouTube or Twitch. Sponsorships are like, it's hard to approach because you got to reach some sort of like stipulations to even get it, depending on what it is or so. Otherwise, you know, you basically begin promoting more Raid Shadow Legends and then simplest things on hand here. You know?
And we learned that, what was it, like only the top 0.04% of streamers are making above minimum wage. So let's have the hard conversation about why gaming channels just in general aren't growing. And even if you are one of the lucky few to get like a spike in viewership, usually that momentum doesn't last very long. And then of course, let's talk about how to fix that.
All right. What do you got playing here?
Before we get too far, I got a special spooky sponsor for you today for any streamers out there looking up to spice up their stream on Halloween. That rhymed. Today's sponsor, Visuals by Impulse, just loaded their store. Want to make sure you knew that. And 20% off of free.
Also, I'm going to skip that. Just
in the or pie, by the way. And while you're there, check out some of their
also, I get the idea for like ads and
premium design company.
Also, I get the idea for like overlays and everything, but I'm not too worried about overlays because most of my spooky stuff you guys will have for Halloween is all my dicks were bought. And basically anybody in the world can basically play it and everything. So that's a key thing.
It's digestible. Let's cut this into 3 parts. Part 1 is called the problem. Gaming is massive. That's not the problem. The problem is gaming is massive and
it's saturated.
Every content creator is doing the exact same thing. If you're browsing through Twitch, you're going to find mostly 2 things. Gameplay and camera. Gameplay and camera. Gameplay and camera. You're either a pro gamer, best in the game, or you're an unmatched, charismatic personality. And that's it. Those are basically the 2 verticals of gaming content. That alone is a massive problem, and it makes it very hard to stand out and get noticed. But
what I want to know is this: where do VTubers fall into this? Because understand, as I'm looking at this right now, you guys are looking at me or so. Yes, this is coming from a webcam, as I'm basically moving my hands around and everything else on hand. Does it classify itself as a webcam, considering the fact that, one, it's not like in a square box or anything, it's just over here on the right-hand side? Or does this classify as something else or so? I feel like it falls in that category, but at the same time, it kind of like leans outward, too. It's like a 50-50 thing on the fence.
There is another problem. Both of those 2 things, gaming and personality, are short-lived and easy to replace. You might be a top 10 gamer at your game, but as soon as that game dies, so does your channel. You might have an amazing magnetic personality that people come to watch, but people move on. This is the mantra of social media. People are always looking for the next thing.
And that's true. That is true. Everybody does look for the next thing on hand. It's also, just keep in mind, too, when it comes down to it or so, it's not a matter of who's looking for the next thing. It's a matter of who's willing to stay with you for the next thing you want to do. Like, understand, I want you guys to understand this too. Whatever chat you're in or so, or if you're a streamer in general, YouTube creator, or basically or so, the people that are your staples, that are there for you or so, they will stay with you. Like, those are the people you are always friends with, you hang out with them, they are your main group. They are your main group, and they will be there with you for as long as you want to do content creation and streaming. Like, they will be there for you, and hey, even outside of that or so, they'll always hang out with you. They're the main glue. They're the main thing that keeps you going.
Either of these 2 things are the perfect anchor that keep the audience coming back forever, which is what brought us to part 2, the half solution. The one that came up 4 years ago. Like, this YouTube channel's roots, its complete beginnings are embedded in what was a new idea, which was if you want to grow on Twitch, you have to grow on YouTube first, where there's more discoverability, and then move that
That's
audience
true.
Over. You've heard it a million times. Move that audience over to Twitch.
You've heard
Everybody
it
knows it now. But that was an interesting and kind of a new idea 4 years ago when I started this channel and started talking about that. But the problem here is, even though we all know that you have to start on YouTube and move over to Twitch, no one really shared how to get started on YouTube, myself included. I've done a terrible job here.
I will tell you this right now, and I will tell you that it's not a secret, but I'm gonna give you guys the idea here. That way you know. Right now on YouTube, the main thing that is going and growing, the trend that's going on is short videos. That is the main thing that's going, because that is the thing that goes in the sense of growing on hand. And people will love your content in short bursts nowadays or so. Now, you can do long forms of content, but it's one of the hardest ones to do now. Because if you're not already an established YouTuber or like an established Twitch streamer on hand where you've done long forms of content for the longest time and basically produced it on your channel or so, it is hard to get that going because there is two algorithms you got to worry about. The normal algorithm for what you have video-wise and the short video algorithm. And here's the interesting thing, because I don't have proof of this, it's just a rumor, but basically those two algorithms conflict with one another. They conflict with one another. And I say this because if you ever go to my YouTube channel or anything, understand this. I put a lot of shorts out, but I also put out long forms of content, video content out there. Most of the times, it's the shorts that do a lot better than my long forms videos. And the reason being is because it's quick, it's easy. It's easy to view, it's easy to basically do what you gotta do, and then you go about your business here. No one's going to stick around to watch a long form of video content on hand for it because it requires you to be at least, you know, stationary to sit down and watch it. And it's hard too because you got to kind of like get it down to like a certain amount of time just for everybody to view it. The main thing I need you to understand is the main trend that's going on right now is short-term videos. Short-term videos because everybody can view it and then they go about their business or so. But over time, you're going to keep building an audience through that will basically, if they'll gain interest in some of the other stuff you do or so. It just takes time. It takes time. Some of the people you have here come from Twitch and they know about your stuff from YouTube. Some people from YouTube, they know about your stuff through that because it came from Twitch. And then basically, you know, from TikTok to YouTube. There's this weird ecosphere of how it works and everything. And it's weird too because Twitch does not have an ecosphere. It doesn't. It does not have an ecosphere because it's funny because you can actually find people that know about your YouTube from TikTok as much as you would find people to know about like YouTube through Instagram or Twitter because it's all in this four platform ecosphere here. While Twitch is on its own, it's just basically taking all four of these and basically introducing everybody to your Twitch. It's weird because it's all luck based. It's all luck based, and you make do what you can. But at the same time, you do it in the longevity of how you're going to do it and how you adapt and learn. In addition to that, how you improve over time. It takes time, and the best thing you can usually do is go along with time. And then you begin to grow little by little. It takes time, and then sooner or later, luck will hit you where basically there's that spike and it goes all the way up. It just takes time.
So often when I find a new gaming creator and I go and I check out their YouTube channel, we find the same thing. We find full-length VODs, like 5-hour VODs uploaded, or highlight reels, or clips uploaded as shorts. The exact same content that is short-lived and easy to replace, just posted on a different platform. Like, guys, there are 1 million people posting Minecraft videos. It is highly unlikely that your Minecraft videos are gonna make waves.
Which I'm gonna go ahead and basically state one other elephant in the room, which I will say this on hand, and I need you guys to know this too, which I need to explain. There's nothing more unique in this world than for you to be yourself. There is nothing more unique in this world than just being yourself, because nobody else can be you but you. And I know there's people out there that put on like these different personalities and everything that basically try to stand out among the crowd and everything. But 9 times out of 10, somebody's already done that shtick. Somebody's already done that. And it's kind of hard to do. Like, it's hard to be something artificial, if you will. Something artificial that sticks out. Because the reason being for that is you don't know if somebody else has already done that. You don't know if somebody else has already taken that idea and just basically ran the ball with it and probably ran it all the way into the ground. And at that point or so, it's just kind of like, why do that when you could just be yourself? Be yourself, because because there's nothing fake about being yourself. You know what else? You know what is fake? Being something you're not. So why fake it to make it when you could just basically be real and what you have becomes real because you know for a fact you did it by being yourself. It's it's always one of those like logical debates on hand. It's like, why become something you're not when you could become something you are, you know?
Which brings us to part 3, the fix. Maybe the fix isn't the best word. Nothing was broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. It's just you only had the first half of the solution, which was start a YouTube channel, which is great. You started your YouTube channel. You did it. Now, the second half of that is what do you create on there? When you look at content creators
And that's
who have
usually
stood the test of time,
that's usually very
the YouTube ringer. I'm talking about creators who are still relevant after 5 to 8 years and still have a dedicated audience that will watch every video. Why? For example, Casey Neistat, Mark Rober, and MKBHD. What is it about these channels that keep them hot, even if they don't post for long periods of time? I mean, honestly, if you know the answer before I end up saying it, do me a favor and hit the like button, because that makes you great and it's free and it helps out this video a ton. But the thing that these 3 creators have in common is that they've all developed a very incredible and unique skill. Casey Neistat has his storytelling. Mark Rober used to be an engineer at NASA. MKBHD has an incredible knowledge of consumer tech. And all 3 of them have mastered their own unique style of filmmaking as well. And YouTube in general has such a diverse...
One last thing, and then I'll let it play out, but I want to point this out too. I understand where he's coming from with the comparison and everything. I see it, but there is one thing that can be taken from each of those individuals on hand compared to a normal, like, streamer, YouTuber, content creator. It's the fact that they already had successful careers before going into streaming and content creating. So they already had the assets before they went into this. Which, don't get me wrong, having assets is good, but at the same time or so, it also gives you an edge compared to a normal person who doesn't have anything, but they're having to work their way up with what they got and basically begin upgrading little by little as time goes by. And as time goes by or so, they begin to master their craftsmanship with what they have, then what they didn't, then will master their craftsmanship with what they have earned, than what they have had, than what they have now, you know? Like I get where he's coming from. It's just they already had something going for them already before they even began their journey with content creation and YouTube streaming in general.
Field of skills that you can learn. There are engineering science channels, there are cooking channels, there are dance channels, music channels, film, photography channels, anything you can think of, there is a channel with over 1 million subscribers on it. Gaming has 2 skills, 2 verticals. You have gaming and you have personality. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those are both very much great marketable skills, but for some reason, that's where we decide to draw the line. Very few people in the gaming community try to learn something outside of those 2 things. And so if I can speak bluntly here, and maybe even overgeneralize a little bit, this might not apply to you, and if it doesn't, that's great. But it seems to me that there's a massive hurdle in gaming content creators, and that is the fact that most streamers don't actually want to be content creators. Most streamers want to play video games and get paid for it. And the problem with that is that the bar is so much higher than that. You are competing with people who do want to be full-time content creators. So the question that I started in the beginning of this video is, do you want to be a creator or do you want to get paid to play video games? Those are the 2 different types of gaming content creators. If you want to be in that first group, you want to be a creator, and you've already started your YouTube channel, the next step is simple. It's hard, but it's simple. You need to develop a skill that sets you above the rest. And that can mean you either get extremely good at something or you learn something that makes you very unique. And it's very hard, but it's unbelievably rewarding. This channel...
Very hard, but unbelievably rewarding. Bear in mind, too, which gets back to the thing I mentioned before on here where I said it's hard to be unique when the only... the only thing that's more unique in this world is being yourself. So when it comes down to it, you know, doing something unique is easier said than done. Like, it's hard to really... I can't even say the word. It's hard to separate what has already been done to what has not been done. In addition, when it comes to skills or so, for the most part, that all depends on exactly what you do outside of content creation and streaming and everything else. It could be a simple hobby you do on hand that can easily be turned into something. But the problem is, how do you take a simple hobby and make it entertaining? Which is always the thinking emoji for that. How do you take something simple and turn it into something great, you know? Me personally, I do enjoy video editing, but I make sure to kind of like figure out how exactly I can improve over time or so. So, you know, maybe in time I can actually improve and do some more different things on it. It's just kind of hard to do all this. The key thing is, it's hard to do everything when you don't have enough time in the world for it. Because you got to try to squeeze everything in little by little. Because you're basically trying to balance the act of what you love to IRL, you know? You're balancing out two different things here. But once you be able to find that balance of what you can do or so, you can make it happen. But it always comes down to the logical debate on hand of how do you become unique when the most unique thing in the world is yourself, and how do you develop a skill when skills itself can easily be, you know, anybody in the world can do exactly what you do, be it good or bad, you know? It's hard to do that.
Channel has kept me so
hard to
busy
become
for the last
unique
couple years now that I
with
haven't
something
been able to
different.
Spend time learning all the things I've had on my list of things I've wanted to learn. It's caused a little bit of an internal struggle, actually, maybe even combined with a little bit of depression, which is why I'll be spending most of 2023 finally learning to do these things that have been sitting there in the back of my mind. Things like learning true filmmaking. I'll be spending serious time learning After Effects, 2D and 3D animation. I'll be playing a ton more guitar. I've already booked a 30-day trip to Japan to immerse myself in the language. After almost 4 years of tutoring, I'm so excited about that. And if you're on board with all this, but you don't know where to get started, why don't you ask yourself what you enjoy watching and consuming? That's usually a pretty good indicator of what you're into.
That's fair.
And
That's understandable.
start. And after all this, if you still fail, if you still never become a content creator, you've still developed a talent that makes you unique, and you have become something greater. And no one can take that away from you.
So that's understandable too. But here's again, this is just my own opinion. Anybody in the world can become a content creator or a streamer. Anybody can. It's just a matter of two things: dedication and patience. It's a matter of those two things, and also just enjoy what you do the most. And remember to just be yourself with it, because let me tell you why. And I'll hit you with a hard truth here. If you stay as yourself while going for your content creation or streaming experience on hand, being a creator or so, you're basically in the end at your highest peak, be it, you know, reaching this milestone, becoming partner, anything else on hand. You can look in the mirror any time in the morning and say, I got there because I was myself. When I look in the mirror, I see myself. I did this because I was myself. Nobody else in the world with a personality of their own that they have to fake it to make it can do that. Because they know when they look in the mirror, it wasn't them that did it. It was something else. If you become yourself, be yourself, your own quirks, your personality, your own humor, anything else on hand, that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you stand out the most. For just being that entirely or so. And in addition on hand or so, anybody in the world could be a content creator. Anybody in the world could stream. And I know they can do that. It's just you develop your stuff over time or so. You get the basics down first in your first year, and then you kind of like begin to improve little by little as time goes by. Just remember, it takes dedication, it takes patience, which is why I live by this motto on hand: be determined, be persistent, be patient. And I stick with that, because I know there's going to be times on hand where you just get down on yourself just for it. But if you let go of what you want to do or so, you'll never know if you'll be able to pick it up again. That's why you keep going. You keep improving little by little whenever you can and become better. And if you keep becoming better and doing what you got to do or so, it will grow in many ways and forms and aspect. And I know anyone can do it. I know anybody can do it. It's just a matter of, are you willing to try? And if you're willing to try, you're willing to go and see it through to the end.